Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing Nuke.
Welcome back, fight fans. Tired of the same old bullshit? Ready for unbiased boxing talk, updates, news, and debates? You've come to the right place. Let's get started. Does Canelo Alvarez think that he can legitimately beat Triple G? Did Canelo Alvarez win the first fight? Let's explore it. Now let's start here. Does Canelo Alvarez legitimately think he can beat Triple G? To answer that question, let's start with the first fight. Did he beat Triple G in the first fight? So in their first fight, basically Triple G used a jab, controlled the fight. Canelo Alvarez looked very sharp defensively, had impeccable skills and timing in getting to Triple G. The issue with Canelo in that fight was, the more punches he threw, the more gas he got. So he got tireder and tireder and tireder as the round went on. So at the beginning of a round, he'll look phenomenal. The mid to the end of the round, he'll lose the round simply because he was too tired to defend himself properly, other than just moving away and absorbing punishment. Triple G in that fight as well did not look himself. I never once saw a clean punch land on Canelo Alvarez. So you have to give Canelo his credit on defense. But you also have to think that being in with an opponent at that stage and that level was the biggest fight of Triple G's career. Do you honestly think that he won't come more prepared this fight? And I'm hearing a lot of people saying Triple G can't make adjustments. Triple G's going to come in the same way. So their pick is automatically saying, oh, I have to pick Canelo Alvarez because I know he's going to make an adjustment. And looking at the first fight, probably seen it 1,000 times by now, over and over and over again, knowing a couple things. One, there's never going to be a situation where any fighter fights a fight and not get somewhat gassed, at least in a couple of rounds. So even the great Floyd Mayweather was gassed in some rounds against some opponents. It's hard to win every round against an elite opponent. And yes, Triple G is an elite opponent. So yes, Canelo, let's say he did dominate the next fight. He would lose at least a couple of rounds because your opponent is elite. Mayweather could dominate an entire fight, but against an elite opponent, he would still may lose a round or two here or there. And so you look at it like this. Canelo Alvarez has shown throughout his career that he'd always get tired during most fights. And most of the time he'd be able to knock out the guy or completely punish him. He was typically the aggressor. In this fight, he's not the aggressor. Triple G's the aggressor. And not only is Triple G the aggressor in this fight, Triple G is the exact reason that Canelo, uses more of his boxing style and technique and his defense more than ever. And that's not a bad thing. It's helping it's helping Canelo Alvarez. But here are my concerns. Canelo Alvarez clearly lost the first fight. Let's be unbiased, let's be honest. He lost the first fight. He could have won the fight had he threw more punches and engaged more. But by doing that, he put himself at greater risk for catching clean shots and getting hurt. Because you have to look at it. Canelo Alvarez is a good boxer. He's very skilled and talented, and he is fast. But you also have to look at it like this. Canelo Alvarez is not the fastest, and he is not the best boxer, pure boxer. His power is good as well. Overall, all of his attributes make Canelo an elite fighter. All of the attributes combined. Not one particular attribute is what makes him elite. It's about having all of those attributes. Triple G, on the other hand, his one particular attribute that makes him elite is his power. Not his defense, not his boxing ability, but his power. Everything else on Triple G is fair to good or bad. Canelo has pretty good power, pretty good speed, pretty good boxing ability. None of those are elite. And yes, typically in the second fight, the better boxer wins. But for me to wonder, does Canelo really think he's going to win the second fight? It's based on some things that we've seen from Oscar De La Hoya and some statements that he's made. The first statement that he's made recently was basically stating that Canelo will dominate Gennady Golovkin in the rematch. And let's go over his quote here. He basically says, I absolutely think he can dominate the whole fight with no problem and then go for the knockout. That's exactly what he wants to do. Canelo knows several ways of fighting. Boxing, moving your head, lateral movement. That Golovkin only knows one style, and that's it. Moving forward and getting hit a few times, then knocks out his opponent. It's very predictable, said De La Hoya. So, now, if that's De La Hoya's quote, and it's basically saying, and that's pretty true for the most part, Canelo does have many different attributes, and Golovkin does come forward. But if you notice the subtleties in boxing, Golovkin does have some adjustments that he does make. Now, in the Vanes Martirosyan fight, he boxed a little more with Vanes than you normally see. And I understand it was a quick fight, ended early, quick knockout. But if you look at it, even Vanes after the fight was quoted as saying that I didn't think Triple G was going to come in and box me. I thought he was going to come in and brawl me. He was expecting a completely different Triple G. Triple G instantaneously cut off the ring. I think it was the beginning of the second round, which spelled doom for Vanes Martirosyan. Triple G has shown some progression. Now, what also hurts Canelo is he's been basically at a year layoff and had a knee surgery, and will no longer, have any clenbuterol in his system as well in this fight. We don't know if it was in the first fight or not, but those opinions vary. Another thing that Oscar De La Hoya said is that Canelo may face the winner of David Lemieux and Gary Spike O'Sullivan. Now, if you look at Gary Spike O'Sullivan and David Lemieux, that'll tell you all you need to know about him. David Lemieux is 39-4. He has 33 knockouts, and he's been defeated twice, both by very elite competition. The first fight that he lost was to Gennady Golovkin. He was basically knocked out in the 8th round, and the second most recent fight that he lost was to Billy Joe Saunders. That was a 12-round unanimous decision where he was hurt. Prior to that, more unknown fighters beat him, but Billy Joe Saunders pretty much put a masterclass on him, and Gennady Golovkin basically beat the hell out of him. And that's very disturbing. If you look at it, David Lemieux is not an elite competitor. He's just a very good boxer with power. A decent boxer. I'll say at least a C-level boxer. C to B level. Gary Spike O'Sullivan is about in the same ship, but I believe slightly less talented. He's 28-2 with 20 knockouts. He's been knocked out once, and basically his most recent loss came to Chris Eubank Jr. in 2015. He was basically stopped in the 7th round, and his loss prior to that was by Billy Joe Saunders over a 12-round unanimous decision. And so Billy Joe Saunders has beat both of these guys, and Gennady Golovkin probably would beat both of those guys. He's already beat David Lemieux. So what this tells me about Canelo Alvarez and the opponent he's picking is that he's not going to want to fight another hard elite guy. Oscar De La Hoya was quoted as saying Canelo would like to unify. He truly believes that he has ambitious plans. Let me give you the quote. So we'll see, but Canelo has ambitious plans. He wants to unify. He wants to fight the best. So it all depends on the fighters' performances. And that's regard to Lemieux and O'Sullivan. Now, with Canelo Alvarez, I'm not going to bullshit you here. I honestly think that he's a very good fighter, but I think that Triple G will give him some problems because Canelo's going to get hit more in this fight. Because if he's legitimately going to go for the knockout, like De La Hoya says, De La Hoya said he's going to outbox him and go for the knockout. He's basically going to try to adjust and put on a boxing masterclass. Everybody gets hit. We've seen Floyd Mayweather and Sugar Shane Mosley fight. We've seen Floyd Mayweather get rocked right on the button. Staggered, had to hold on. It happens to anybody. It's boxing. And we wouldn't look at Sugar Shane Mosley and say he's the fighter with the most elite power you've ever seen. Then on the reverse side, you've seen Floyd against Marcos Maidana. And you're saying, I believe in one of the later rounds of that fight, Floyd was hit right on the button, right at the bell. It wobbled him a little bit. It affected him. We've seen Sean Porter and Adrian Broner. Sean Porter dominated the entire fight. At the end of the fight, the 12th round, Adrian Broner hit him. His power carried to the final round, and he got a knockdown. Wasn't enough for the knockout, but it was enough for the knockdown. If Adrian Broner could do that, if Shane Mosley is a Hall of Famer, but if also Marcos Maidana can do that, And these are against very good opponents, highly respected and elite opponents. Floyd Mayweather and Sean Porter. What makes you think that Canelo can't get hit? And we know Canelo has a tendency for getting exhausted. Canelo will come into this fight lighter, less body mass. That means he's not going to be able to absorb the amount of punches he was able to absorb in the first fight. That's a scary thing. So if I'm looking at Canelo, yes, the speed and endurance and the punching may be on point and look impressive for the first 6 rounds. But this is a 12-round fight. Eventually, Gennady Golovkin will cut the ring off and will win some rounds. And when he wins a round, it's going to be a very decisive round because he's so strong. And Canelo's coming in much smaller. Canelo's already a small middleweight to begin with, about 5'9". And he just has more of a build of a 154-pounder than a true middleweight. You have Daniel Jacobs reportedly saying he believes he knocks him out. He believes he knocks Canelo Alvarez out based on sheer size alone. Gennady Golovkin has taken punches and power shots from these guys. He's taken everything Canelo dished out in the last fight and didn't get wobbled. At this point, it makes you wonder if Triple G will be interested in walking through those punches and going right for Canelo. Because what happens, I hear a lot of scenarios saying Canelo is, he can adjust, he can make all these changes, but what if Triple G walks through those punches? No one seems prepared for that theory. What if Canelo can't keep him off of him? What if Triple G goes to the body? The one thing that can wear an opponent down is consistently going to the body, getting you exhausted, and Canelo's coming in much smaller than the previous fight, and coming off a layoff of inactivity and a knee surgery. All of those things will play a role in this fight. Canelo looks extremely impressive in workouts, but all those things will play a role. Now, to answer the original question, does Canelo Alvarez think that he can beat Triple G? I don't know. I don't think so. Because if you have ambitious plans, you want to unify, and your next fight you're considering is David Lemieux or Gary Spike O'Sullivan? What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Gary fucking Spike O'Sullivan or David fucking Lemieux? These guys are not elite. They're not the best. I understand you're coming off 2 great hard matchups with Triple G, but you've also had almost a year break in between in one of those fights. So I understand that typically when guys win and step up, you win a title, you step up, and then you take a little bit of, you take more of a, a slam dunk fight, and then you get back into the fire with a better guy. But in this particular case, it makes me wonder that Canelo would even consider these guys after Triple G, especially having the layoff, the knee surgery, and needing to be active. Wouldn't it make more sense if you just beat, I guess, the strongest puncher in the division, is to keep the ball rolling against good competition, especially with the layoff, instead of taking a fight like this, a simple tune-up fight, if you have grand ambitions? It seems like you want a bounce-back fight to take one of these guys who have already clearly been beaten. And I'm not even saying take a Daniel Jacobs right away or Billy Joe Saunders right away. You don't have to take one of those top guys. You could take a guy that's better than Lemieux and that's better than O'Sullivan, a guy that hasn't been beaten. And a guy like that will be, or a guy that hasn't been beaten by the typical round table of middleweights. So you could look at a guy like, let's say, whoever loses out of the Demetrius. If Demetrius Andre loses to Billy Joe Saunders, fight him. If Derevyanchenko loses to Danny Jacobs, fight him. Fight the loser of one of these big fights. That way you can build that resume up, because all of these guys are really good. I haven't seen Canelo compete against another middleweight who's as fast and able to adjust as he is. Triple G is not the adjustment king, but he will make adjustments for the second fight. Does Canelo really believe he can win this fight? I think it's very debatable. I think Canelo is a little concerned. Canelo was quoted as recently saying, "I made Triple G a lot of money." The fact that your mind is on money, your thoughts is on money before this fight concerns me. You're one of the most, one of the wealthiest fighters in the game. You're the biggest name in North American sports. Why is your mind on money? I understand that you're already wealthy. I understand that Triple G made a lot of money off of these two fights, but Canelo's reputation is at stake. He must win this fight to restore his reputation and show the world that he is legitimately the rightful king of the middleweight division. If he knocks out Gennady Golovkin, I will not criticize him for fighting a Gary Spike O'Sullivan or David Lemieux. But a David Lemieux or Gary Spike O'Sullivan fight seems to be the follow-up to a defeat. If you lose to a Triple G, that seems to be the follow-up. And we've already seen Canelo lose once. So that means, and Canelo knows he lost, so that doubt is already in his mind. He knows he can make adjustments, but the doubt of what you've already been in with this monster is already in your mind. Canelo Alvarez was also quoted as saying that he rates Triple G power at about a 9 or a 10. That's very telling. So you know, an 8 or a 9. So basically in boxers' terms, that means this motherfucker hits hard. That's about a 10. So what you're essentially saying is Triple G hits very hard, and we saw the totality of those punches wear him down towards the end of that fight. Triple G won a string of middle to late rounds and easily should have gotten the victory. Now in the second fight, yes, Canelo, what more can Canelo do besides a little more head movement? He's not going to get any faster than what he already is. Yes, he's at a smaller size, but that means you're not going to be able to absorb the same punishment. You will get hit at points in this fight. Canelo is not the best and most elite boxer you've ever seen, and Triple G will make some adjustments. Simply by just going to the body more could cause Canelo a world of hurt. So does Canelo really believe he can win the second fight? I think he has doubts. I think that's the most appropriate answer to this. I think he doubts if he can win. I think that's why the words and back and forth has gotten so nasty. It's been about money. It's been about cowardice. It's been about failed drug tests. He's recently called Golovkin a hypocrite. A lot of things. And so these guys, it's gotten really ugly between these guys. Golovkin simply said, there was nothing special about Canelo in our first fight. That was his direct quote, nothing special. Because even with all the movement that Canelo had, even with the great boxing ability, he still lost the fight. And he never hurt Triple G. These are facts that can't be ignored. Coming off a layoff with the knee injury, and yeah, I'm sure even if he was a gym rat and getting plenty of sparring, that's not going to equal getting in the ring with someone, fighting on live TV, and getting it done. That's a different animal. That's a different beast. Canelo Alvarez has doubts about this Triple G fight. And we will see that come September. For more from the IBFP, please subscribe.